Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome, everybody, to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. I love that I get to say that. I didn't always say that. If you go to my early episodes, I don't know what I say, but it's something. Hello. But somewhere along the line, I started saying it's a great day to be alive. And it makes me happy. So if you want, try it right now. Like, just say it's a great day to be alive, and it will automatically lift you up. Okay. I mean, you're not necessarily going to be all happy if you're not in a great mood, but you're going to feel a little bit better. So just say it. Like, I challenge you. It's a great day to be alive. And that's true, right? Like, there's always hope. If we're alive, there's always hope. And there's so many solutions. And this show hopefully provides solutions for you. It is a bright spot in your day. Yeah, that's my hope. So anyway, I have an amazing guest today. I really enjoyed hearing her. She is on fire with her message. She's got some really cool things to share about inflammation and healing your body of pain by allowing inflammation. Actually, it's kind of a different message, but all inflammation is not bad, or inflammation is not all bad. So if you have not yet started following me on Instagram, I'm at Tricia Nelson Tricia Nelson _. I have some cool inspirational videos that you should definitely check out, and messages, things that might just help, give you a little boost throughout the day. And we also often are popping into the Secret Sauce group, which is on Facebook, the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating. Definitely join us there. My website is healyourhunger.com. There's a quiz on my website, which is super cool and will help you determine if you're an emotional eater or a food addict. Okay, so find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict, or somewhere in between, and what you're literally going to get a personalized score, and what your next steps might be based on your personalized score. So go to the website. It's totally free. It's healyourhunger.com, and you can find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict, or somewhere in between, and what to do about it. Hey, let's get into action real fast. So I love this guest. Her name's Deanna Hansen, and she's a best-selling author and pioneer in the field of fascia decompression for physical and emotional transformation. She has more than 20 years of hands-on clinical experience, and she created Block Therapy, which is a unique at-home fascia release protocol to relieve chronic pain and dis-ease, encourage healthy detoxification, and reverse the aging process. And you're going to hear exactly how that happens. And she's really good. She talks in laywoman's terms. Thank goodness, because I need that. So I learned a lot, and my goal is for you to learn a lot. And I think you're really going to enjoy her beautiful energy, and this opportunity to get out of pain in whatever way that pain shows up in your body. On with the show. Deanna, so happy to have you here. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Tricia. It is an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I love your energy. I love what you're doing. Thank you for sending me your book. Super nice, called Unblock Your Body. I'm psyched to dig into this. I don't really understand it, although the things that I read in your book made a ton of sense. And so but I do want to start first at your story and how you came to do this incredibly important work.
Thank you. So I'm 54 now. Back when I was 30 years old, I had made some serious changes in my life that were necessary. Prior to that, I was certified as an athletic therapist here in Canada. And so my practice was always focused on deep tissue work on clients. And I had a very successful practice because I had good, strong hands. But my own body was really struggling. I was 50 pounds overweight, struggling with anxiety, depression, and I was doing the work. I was trained to know how to work the body. So I was working out like a fiend. I, of course, was doing all the diets I could, figure out to do. And the thing was, I kept getting bigger with all of the efforts. And as a result of this too, I started having serious anxiety and depression. So at the age of 30, I made some big changes in my life. And the result was my anxiety actually got really ramped up high. And it was this one moment that was actually the seed for everything to come, because in the moment of this anxiety attack, I actually thought I was going to die. Like my breath was literally frozen. And for some reason, I dove my hand into my abdomen. And the first thing I encountered was pain, but the pain was very grounding to the anxiety. So I recognized, okay, I'm going to live another day. I'm breathing. And then I just continued to intuitively explore with my fingers in my belly. And the 50 extra pounds I carried tended to be right in my core. So I hated that area and I never really touched it. So now here I am with my hands deep inside my tissue and I'm moving around. And what I located was what felt like scar tissue marbled throughout, even though I hadn't had any injury or surgery in this area. So suddenly I had all these aha moments. Like, no wonder when I'm coming home from a 5-mile run, dripping wet with sweat, my belly would still feel cold. So I recognized I wasn't getting any blood flow to this area to metabolize the tissue. And what was so exciting was also I was very calm as a result of doing this work. So I spent about 45 minutes that first evening working in my tissue, woke up the next day, felt a little tender. But what was fascinating while I was working on my clients all day, I was very calm and I was super excited to go back home that evening and dive back in. After the second night of that intuitive exploration, when I stood up, I felt taller. And I went and I looked at myself in the mirror and I literally started to cry because my belly was flatter than it had looked in years. And years of like really working hard, 400 sit-ups a day, like doing anything and everything that I was trained to do. So suddenly I was again understanding, like when I started taking yoga, this was actually right around the same time. And I had a fantastic teacher and she, every 30 seconds or so, she would remind us to breathe. And every time she would remind us to breathe, I recognized I'm not breathing. So I thought, well, likely if I'm not breathing properly, probably the majority of people aren't either. So as a result of that training combined with what I was uncovering at my fingertips, I started to really understand what was going on in my body. And what really is happening is I've connected deeply into the fascia system. And the fascia is basically like skin to the body. Fascia is the skin to each and every one of our trillions of cells. So we ultimately want to take care of this system. And through this process of what I encountered with my fingertips, I recognized how I had developed adhesions throughout my body as a result of unconscious posture and unconscious breathing. So this began the journey of my exploration 24 years ago, and here we are today.
That is fascinating. That is super fascinating. I love that you discovered this just organically, right? And I also love how passionate you are about this. So you really bring so much energy to the topic, and you have me on the edge of my seat. Like, I'm like, okay, like, let's do this. Let's figure this out. I want to hear about it. You're not figuring anything out, but I want to hear about it and understand it. And I'm sure you've gotten other people just as curious. So good job on that. So fascia, okay, you've given us a little bit about fascia. So why are you dissolving fascia? What's the verbiage? Are you getting rid of fascia? What are you doing?
So ultimately, the fascia system or our posture is an accumulation of the forces of life, gravity being prominent, right? We basically get shorter and wider as we get older. We've got this force constantly pulling us down, but we don't simply collapse in a linear way. We literally spiral down toward the earth. We're dominant on one side, whichever side it is. So as we age, we get shorter and wider and we start tipping off balance. Now, the fascia is here in part to keep us both mobile, but also stable. So if we start tipping off balance, as we all tend to do, the fascia will grip and adhere to anything in its path, including bone, to stop us from tipping over, essentially. So it's adhesions that get created through the layers of fascia all the way to the bone to create this added stability. But unfortunately, these adhesions, like scar tissue, block blood and oxygen flow to cells, as well as block the ability for the body to clean itself. So the goal is that we keep every one of our trillion of cells in its correct alignment. And if we do that, we have optimal space. Space is the goal because space allows for an ease of passage of nutrients into the cell and waste away from the cell. And as long as there's an ease of flow, the body is aligned as it should be. It's functioning as it should be. It doesn't have to give us pain signals. The cells aren't feeling stressed, so we don't get that sense of anxiety in the body. So we want to keep every cell in position. But again, unfortunately, because we're not conscious of posture and breath, we have allowed gravity and the other forces of time to do its job compressing us. And as we compress, we balloon. So that's the real thing that I learned when it comes to my issue with size and shape. The rules of weight loss didn't apply to my body. What I understood, though, was, okay, well, when I collapse, the tissue has to go somewhere. So, for example, I mean, here in the belly, we've got this beautiful muscle, the diaphragm, that when working properly, it moves down toward the earth with the inhalation. With the exhalation, it moves up. So it's this pump moving up and down to keep this whole area heated, lots of energy. But if we don't consciously breathe this way, it becomes weak and we collapse. So this is the typical posture. So as I collapse in, tissue has to move out. And then that collapse creates stagnancy. And that stagnancy creates acidity in the body. And then the cells expand and they become bigger. So from the understanding of size and shape, it's so much more about compression and ballooning and toxification rather than calories in versus energy expenditure, because I was that person working out like crazy and hardly putting in the calories and actually getting bigger because I had not had the concept of proper alignment or proper diaphragmatic breathing.
Super interesting. So can I just tell you what I heard? Because I think I might have missed a few steps. So when we're tipping, right, when our posture isn't good, when we're slumped over at the desk, right, we're basically building fat, like fascia's finding its way to bones and it's like obstructing the flow. Is that a simplified version of it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a spider shooting out a web to create that stability in the body. Yes.
Right. Which then restricts flow of oxygen and
everything
and all that.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I read in your book was about inflammation and how we think of inflammation as bad, but that is not the whole story.
No, inflammation is the body's response to injury, to stress. When the cell isn't getting everything it requires, the body's directing blood flow to that area to assist it, essentially. So it's the adhesion and the scar tissue that really create the inflammation, because those are the things blocking the ability for the cell to receive what they need. So then the body keeps saying, well, wait, that cell's not getting what it needs. So it continues to send more inflammation until it's either so stuck and chronic and frozen and stagnant, or until the tissue has actually been rebuilt. So having said that, we have a very different approach to acute injury to actually deal with inflammation, because we want to support inflammation. We don't want to stop it. We just need to understand what it needs, and what it needs is energy. You know, like with an acute injury, for example, the RICE method, rest, ice, compression, elevation. That's what I was trained as an athletic therapist to do when somebody comes off the court or off the field and they've sprained something, throw an ice pack on it. But that's when that area that has been damaged needs the most energy, the most time and attention. Like a car crash, there's going to be debris whenever you have, some kind of a force that goes into the body, there's breakage. So through the process of assisting the flow and the inflammation, we pull all of this stuff out of the way so that the body can send in all of whatever is necessary to heal all of the tissue that has been damaged in that space. And then we can be really effective at creating repair. For somebody that's been in a chronic state of inflammation, their body is going to be really, really cold in comparison to the temperature, the full body temperature that it should be. Because when we're breathing diaphragmatically, that's like turning on the body's furnace. The challenge is pain, fear, and stress cause us to reactively hold the breath. So we will still be breathing because we're designed to survive, but we end up breathing through the muscles of the upper chest. But this is really limiting when it comes down to feeding all of the cells in the body what they need, because it's at the base of the lungs where the majority of the oxygen receptor sites reside. So if we're breathing shallow through the muscles of the upper chest, we're not pulling the air deeply enough into the lungs to reach this bed of abundance of alveoli for optimal absorption. And we can feed the body up to 6 times the oxygen when breathing diaphragmatically. And really excitingly, in 2014, they did a study that's in the medical news sharing that 84% of weight loss comes through proper exhalation. And I was so excited because I always understood that the breath is really the key, because I was missing that component. And when I really started to tap into the body's innate intelligence and drive the body as it was meant to be driven, it really changes the game in really our entire physiology and how we process toxins, how we feed ourselves, even how we view life. In fact, it was Eckhart Tolle who shared in The Power of Now that when we're breathing diaphragmatically, we're living in the moment. When we're breathing through the muscles of the upper chest, we're living in the thoughts of past and future, which is where stress lives. It actually changes the brain frequency from being relaxed to being stressed when we breathe through those upper chest muscles. So really, it's a fantastic and phenomenal approach to be able to understand the fascia system and truly turn on the magic of how the body is meant to be driven.
That is really cool. Just the idea that weight loss is, is so connected to our breath and to the oxygen and the nutrients that we get from that oxygen. So super cool. Okay. So let's talk about block therapy. How does that fit in?
So basically, we compress over time, we get shorter and wider. So with block therapy, we decompress the fascia. It's all about, there's 3 pillars. The first pillar is putting the space back into the body that time has taken away. So creating that space. So through the process, may I share this?
Yeah,
this tool?
let's see the blocks.
Okay.
Is this something you created?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's 2 sizes of blocks. They're made of either bamboo or wood. And reason being is because they are similar in density to bone. So because the adhesions in the fascia will grip all the way to the bone, that's where the root of our issues lie. And they will seal with a force up to 2,000 pounds per square inch. That's an incredible force. When we're collapsed and held out of alignment, to tell somebody to sit up straight and start breathing properly, we're actually fighting that 2,000 pound per square inch force.
Wow. I should have told my mom that when she used to sit up straight at the dining room table. I'd be like, mom, we got 2,000 pounds here. Let up.
Exactly. So this gets deep through the layers. So we lie on this through multiple areas of the body at the same time as you are being instructed on proper diaphragmatic breathing. So the combination of the 2 create a beautiful heating because we're melting adhesions. Wherever there's a lack of blood flow, tissue is colder. So we want to heat up that tissue and get that blood and oxygen into that space. So through the process, we lie on the tool for a minimum of 3 minutes in each position because melting takes time. So when we're in a position where the block is under our body weight, over a period of 3 minutes or greater, we're creating pressure on the surface, which creates heat. Turning on proper diaphragmatic breathing is like turning on the body's internal furnace. So now we're getting a heating from the inside as well as the outside. And that very effectively creates that heating all the way to the bone. So that's the 2 pillars, is creating space. The second one is inflating that space with oxygen. And then the third pillar is maintaining that space through understanding proper postural alignment. We don't want to just fall back into that negative posture that created the issues in the first place. We want to own that new space. So the system is a full body approach targeting every area of the body, because where we feel pain or even have symptoms or that ballooning of what we think is accumulation of fat, it's driven by cause sites. So there's cause sites and pain sites. We don't just want to work where the pain is or where the issue is. We want to understand that the full body is interconnected through the fascia system. So we need a full body approach. And when we create this approach and we follow the protocol, it is extremely efficient at changing what's been going on in the body, pulling those cells back to correct alignment so we can have an ease of flow. And as long as we have an ease of flow, we have a really effective body at getting rid of toxins and being able to manage and handle the stresses of life.
Super cool. For those who are listening, the blocks that Deanna held up, they look kind of like the yoga blocks, those kind of firm but slightly mushy blocks in yoga. They look kind of like that, but they're gorgeous and wood. They're wood, right? They look like, are they literally wood?
Yeah, this one is made of elm, and we've got bamboo also. So,
oh my God, they're beautiful. And they have a beautiful stamp in them. Is that your brand there?
That's our logo. Yeah, our Block Therapy logo.
It's so beautiful. So there are these cool blocks that are wood that she's talking about using and maneuvering your body around, or them around your body. Which is it? Like, is it your body? Like, is it both?
We lie on it. So we're creating pressure. And it's really simple because you're literally lying on it. So rather than going to a therapist where they're manipulating your tissue, you lie on the tool. And then very slowly, we teach you how to spiral through those layers of fascia to melt those adhesions. And you follow the path of pain. Because pain is really just the signal that your cell gives you, letting you know it needs attention. So when we follow the path of pain, we have a very systematic approach to releasing those adhesions and pulling those cells back. And what's lovely is pressure overrides pain. So as you start lying on the tool, you sense the pain, but you're always instructed your breath is your guide and you're in control of how much pain you allow your body. But then very soon it starts to feel like that really wonderful, good pain, like that itch you can't scratch. And then as you melt through those layers, you gain range of motion, you gain blood flow into spaces that have been blocked. You detoxify areas that have been toxic. And it changes the health of your entire body.
That is super cool. And what I love about this, Deanna, also is you're literally like, you're empowering people to heal their bodies. I mean, we're no longer like, got to go somewhere, got to get somebody, got to take something, right? It's like, no, we can do this work. Of course, it's work. We do have to put some time into it. It doesn't happen without that, but you're literally empowering people to do this at home with your blocks and literally find freedom from pain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so incredibly simple to do. You just follow the protocol. And in fact, in one day, you'll see and feel changes in your body. That's how impactful it is, because we always start in the core and the rib cage so that we can free the diaphragm and truly gain the power that this muscle has for our body so that it can do all the things that it's supposed to do. And unfortunately, most people are unconscious breathers. So we're really just, again, we're using this upper chest breath, which is so minimal in comparison to what it can do for our longevity, our health, how we age, how we manage stress, and everything. Really, it's a game changer.
That is cool. And is it mostly focused on the diet, like the chest, the ribs, and all that, or is it something you can use on different, your legs if you have pain in your shoulder or something like that?
It's full body. And in fact, the calves and the feet and the forearms and the hands, they're the furthest from the engine. So this is where the fascia will actually grip and adhere with the most powerful seal. So for example, if I have a frozen shoulder and I go and I have a treatment on my shoulder, as soon as I start walking, I'm going to get pulled back into the system that has created that malalignment in the first place. So we work full body. We work in the scalp, all through the face. I mean, there's really no part of the body we don't touch with the block.
Wow, that is super cool. And when you say you mean one can do this with themselves and the block?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I love this. It's really cool. And I love finding out and sharing the good news that people can do things at home to heal, pain, because pain is so awful. It's awful to be hurting. It just in any way, emotionally or physically. But oftentimes physical pain honestly drives overeating. I mean, obviously physical pain is a result of overeating and waking so much of the time, but also for goodness sakes, it's really hard to eat clean as an emotional eater when you just feel crappy. When you feel crappy, when you have pain, self-pity doesn't help, like, woe is me. Like usually when I'm sick, I'm most at danger of overeating because I just feel so bad and I want to feel better, And so the idea that people could really help their pain, especially physical pain that, they don't have to take a medication for, that's just incredible news.
Emotional pain as well. The negative emotions get trapped and stored in the fascia. So as we go through this process as well, we also release those patterns that were created from trauma, the posturing that's created from trauma, and then all the negative benefits as a result of that too. So it's truly like a full-on clean from everything that time has absorbed into your body. All the toxins that we're breathing in, drinking, whatever it is, through relationships, we're absorbing that negative stuff all the time. The fascia is like a sponge. So we want to wring out that sponge and clean it. And when we're frozen and not breathing, we store. So the more things we store, the heavier we get, the more toxic we become, the more we expand in our size and shape. And then the more crappy we feel in general. So the lovely part is, by diving into this, you're moving that negative stuff out of your body, and you're feeding those cells with the most important nutrient that they require, which is oxygen. And I truly believe a lot of people think that they should be eating because they feel hungry, but they're feeling hungry because their cells are starved of the oxygen. So when you start breathing, you really do change. Like you change how your brain functions again. You change everything about your physiology, and it's fascinating to go through the process. And I'm 24 years in, and the benefits don't stop. That's another thing that's beautiful as well. I've changed remarkably in the 24 years I've done this, and I still have a long way to go. But each time you dive into your tissue, you uncover new cells that have been pulled away from alignment. You pull them back more, they communicate with you, and each cell has a message, something that we're put here to do, to share with the world. So you start to also uncover your creative gifts if you haven't already. And there's more than you likely even realize that you have, because they're buried in these areas that we've blocked from feeling.
Yep. They're trapped inside, begging to be released. So thank you for that. That's super cool. Emotional and physical detoxification and healing. So wonderful. And you have a really cool free course for people to experience this.
I do. It's a 9-part video series teaching you fascia decompression through your body using a rolled up towel. So you can start this immediately. And, the first couple of classes, we get into that rib cage and breath. So you're going to feel the change right away. You're just using a rolled up towel. And the rolled up towel is pretty effective, I have to say.
Wow, that is so cool. So we're going to put a link for that free course. You guys have to check that out. We're going to put it in the show notes. Thank you for that incredible gift, Deanna. That is so cool. And I love your enthusiasm and your passion for what you're doing, and you're walking. Definitely, you're sitting right now, but you're basically a walking, talking example of how healthy you can be, because not everybody can see you, but I'm looking at you, and you're healthy and vibrant and beautiful on the inside and the outside. So thanks for your incredible work in helping people really heal and become their best selves. That's really beautiful.
Thank you so much, Tricia. And thank you so much for this opportunity. You also exude beauty and health. And I'm just very grateful that I could be here sharing with your community.
Super cool. I'm going to ask you one last question, which I like to ask my guests. This being the Heal Your Hunger show, what would you say is your deepest hunger?
To be accepted.
Oh, I don't know that I've ever gotten that answer. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yours, if I can ask?
Yeah. So it's my, to be light and love in the world.
Oh, lovely.
Good stuff. Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody. This is a great thing to explore, because you deserve to feel happy. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to be released and vibrant and alive. So thanks again, Deanna. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.